Alright, so we've finally hit the end of the sixth generation. The first generation, I had two of home console competitors. Last time we talked about the Xbox, and shortly after, I got a GameCube. We left off at about fall 2002, 2003. I got the Xbox as an early holiday gift. Given it was the fall, a new year of school started, and I had switched schools and wound up visiting a classmate's house, and that's where I was introduced to the GameCube. Played a few games that stood out. One, of course, was Super Smash Bros. Melee. Now, you would think, looking at my channel, that it was love at first sight, but that couldn't actually be further from the truth. I absolutely hated this game at first. Like I said, I was only familiar with some of the Mario characters from Mario Kart Super Circuit, didn't know anyone else. Although shortly later I became familiar with Link. And this classmate didn't really tell me how to play, didn't go easy on me at all. And the game pretty much back then consisted of me getting my ass kicked. Which isn't very fun, especially when you really don't know how to fight back or anything. It didn't help when there was other people over. They would gang up on me and kick my ass even quicker and harder to get a reaction, because I was getting frustrated. Completely turned me off from the series and the whole fighting genre, actually. Which is ironic given where we are now, because fighting genre is one of my favorites now. It would take, years later where my sibling actually would play the game up a friend's house, have a much better experience, get it for our GameCube, and I finally gave it another shot, played with my sibling, played and finally figured out how to improve on my own. And yeah, the rest is history. Another game we played was Mario Party 4, and I like this one a bit better because I can actually sort of hold my own. There's kind of an interesting story for me actually getting Mario Party 4 specifically, because by the time I got the GameCube, Mario Party 5 was the new game. So I got that one pretty early, but where I did like it, I liked, some of the boards from the first game. I liked playable Donkey Kong. I would think there's, a bunch of different mini games between the two of them too, or at least at the time I thought that. Holiday season rolled around, and I got Mario Party 6, no 4, and I just remember having a hard time convincing my parents that it was necessary, because I think their kind of view at the time of video game sequels was they kind of just built off each other. They didn't realize there was unique content in each one. And I didn't know how to explain that at that time. Eventually found a loose copy, my first loose game of Mario Party 4 at Blockbuster. The one we had would sometimes have, you would normally just rent games and movies and stuff from them. But some older stuff they weren't really renting out, they would have for sale for a decent price. And one day Mario Party 4 was finally there, so wound up getting it then. Mario Kart Double Dash was the last Mario-related one from that time, before I actually had the console. But like I said, I didn't like Super Circuit, but Double Dash, we were kind of evenly matched. My Crash Team Racing experience served me well. And it was nice to, just have a game of a similar quality to Crash Team Racing, which, as I've said before, at the time was my favorite game. Just, with some different ideas and characters and that sort of thing. Animal Crossing was the final of that sort of trio of games that convinced me I needed a GameCube. This game kind of blew my mind at the time. I mean, being able to just go around and do whatever you wanted. The fact that, time would pass and stuff would change in game with the time. Hell, even just being able to collect NES games, something I definitely miss. Because, I like collecting and playing games in real life, so it fits to be able to do it in this virtual life. Kind of funny because I remember having a discussion later on about what we would like to see in a new Animal Crossing game, and the pitch pretty much turned into Grand Theft Animal Crossing. It was like, yeah, you should be able to drive cars and run stuff over, and oh, it'd be awesome if they added guns, and you can like fight bad animals or annoy that one villager you don't like easier than hitting them with a net or pushing them into a pitfall. I forget if I actually knew of Grand Theft Auto at the time of that conversation. But yeah, after that, I learned about platform exclusives. And I almost, regretted having the Xbox because shortly after I found out, wait, I can get the Crash Bandicoot games on GameCube, but I can't get all of these other games on Xbox. So I proceeded to be a pain in the ass again, I'm sure. Eventually I started, saving my allowance, and my parents were like, so they're Catholic, and there's Sunday school shit they had me in, and it was the year you like graduate and they let you eat the wafers, and I was giving them a real hard time about all that shit. So they were like, you know what, save your money, get a good normal school report card, stop being difficult about the Sunday school stuff, and we were planning to get you a gift anyway for the graduation, so we'll just pitch in money and you can finally get the GameCube. And they actually wound up working out a similar deal as they did with the Xbox, where they found a relative who was looking to get rid of one for whatever reason. So I remember we had like a family gathering early in the summer, and they had him bring it so we can buy it off him. I remember too on the way home, because the gathering wasn't far from where we lived, so I rode my scooter to and from. And I don't remember what I was carrying. I don't think it was the console. It came with, controller, a couple games. It was probably one of those things I was carrying while riding my scooter. Wound up wiping out on the way home. Luckily, the whatever I was carrying wasn't damaged, but that was, from what I remember, one of the rougher falls I had. Got banged up a bit, so it was a bittersweet night. Came with 2 games. First was Wind Waker, and I really liked the game. I wasn't very good at it. Like, I just had fun exploring around Outset Island. I feel like each time I would go in, I would get a little further, then I would reset my stage, do the whole thing over again. I remember I got stuck at the Forsaken Fortress for quite a while, but I think I did eventually make it up to Dragon Roost Island before I would eventually go back and play through the entire game a lot more recently. There was also Dragon Ball Z Budokai. I think this is the right one. I remember it had a red color. I remember a red cover. It was Dragon Ball Z. And this was the closest one I saw that had a GameCube release. But I knew nothing about Dragon Ball at the time. And I knew it was a fighting game. And since I hated Melee so much, I never wound up playing it at all. I wound up selling it when we needed some money to replace our broken Xbox. I did go back later and I got the HD re-release, which came with this and the third game on Xbox 360. So I plan to eventually give it a proper shot. So we'll make up for that eventually. So after that, through the years, I would get some more games, some of which were the Nickelodeon variety again. Battle for Bikini Bottom, considered a classic by many, was not a game I enjoyed. Like I said, with the Nickelodeon games, the thing I enjoyed most was just sort of exploring the world as, close to the show as it could be. And I was already kind of able to do that in Spongebob Operation Krabby Patty that I already had on PC. Plus this game, like, blocked off areas and had all these collectibles that kind of got in the way and weren't in the show. So it's probably the first time this sentence has ever been uttered out loud. But back then, I definitely preferred SpongeBob Operation Krabby Patty to Battle for Bikini Bottom. Didn't play it a lot. I did buy the remake from a couple years ago. I do want to give it more of a proper shot eventually. I got the movie, the game for SpongeBob too. I played this one even less than Battle for Bikini Bottom. I think I played the first level and was like, wait, this is just Battle for Bikini Bottom again. Which, like I said, I didn't really like at the time. So I just put it away and never looked back. I had the sequel to Fairly Odd Parents Breaking the Rule, Shadow Showdown. I don't know if I played this one at all either. Like I said, I kind of just liked the one level based off an episode and concept I like that I talked about in the Xbox episode of this series. It's kind of a Sword Art Online, like inserting yourself into a video game in this video game. So this didn't have that. I didn't really like the other game other than that, so I just never really touched it. I was a bit pickier at this time. Rocket Power Beach Bandits, that is a game I played though. I don't think I ever really made it super far, but I just really liked running around the world. Like I said, it was more open and closer to the show, kind of like I like, and being able to skateboard and bike and whatever else around was pretty fun. I had every single Mario Sport game that released on the GameCube. I just kind of thought at the time I wanted to try to be cool and fit in, and sports seemed to be something people like. And I like Mario, so what can be cooler than Mario Sports? Got into all of them for a bit at different points, except golf. I didn't like golf, but tennis, football / soccer, and baseball all had their moments for me. Funny enough, I would rent Mario Sunshine and Luigi's Mansion from Blockbuster, which is how I think my parents sort of bribed me after getting the GameCube to behave or whatever. But I didn't like either of them. I got stuck real early, and that was that. Which, like I said, is kind of ironic because looking back, I would eventually buy them. And a lot of the other games I at one point rented, like I remember Super Monkey Ball Adventure, Spyro A Hero's Tale, among others. But yeah, eventually sort of platformers would become one of my favorite genres, and Sunshine was decent. And Luigi's Mansion was kind of its own thing, but that was a pretty fun game too. A couple of my favorites on the console now, in retrospect, which is, just kind of funny how that changed. I don't know if this counts as Mario Sports either, but SSX on Tour had the GameCube version. I guess technically, because wasn't there a basketball game that had Mario, Luigi, and Peach in it too? I didn't have that one, and I still don't. What? Sorry, I was kind of reading the wiki page. I don't even know they did a prequel to this game. That's kind of interesting. I didn't really know there was much of a story here, but okay. But yeah, this was fun. This was when I got later, because I remember I actually started to ski in real life at the time, so that was sort of another driving force behind getting this one. There was a few games I played at other people's houses that I eventually got for myself because I liked them. Super Monkey Ball 2. Did a more in-depth video on that one, but remember at the time I didn't really spend much time on main game. I was mainly was it Monkey Target, I think it was called, where you sort of fly and try to hit the target below, and Monkey Bowling type person. Kirby's Air Ride. I mean, this is another game too I put a lot of time into. A nice twist on, kind of kart racing-esque formula. Oh man, City Trial. It's a shame no one really ever was able to replicate it quite like they did here. Remember getting super excited to unlock Meta Knight and DDD too. And even, just a few different Kirby colors. Twilight Princess was a little later, but still kind of the same category. It was a bit like Wind Waker, though, where I kind of liked messing around in Auradon, but I never made it past the Forest Temple, just because, I wasn't very smart or whatever, and got stuck. And if I was going to go around and mess around in one of the worlds, I would rather go to Wind Waker. But eventually, ironically enough, this was the first one I would go back to 100% beat, and, holds a special place in my heart now in the series. Had the Game Boy player too. I forget if that was one I discovered and asked for, or one that my parents sort of found and thought I'd like. But honestly, I didn't really use it much. It was kind of convenient later to make backups of my Game Boy Advance games, but at the time, I don't know, I thought it was easier to just pull out my Game Boy Advance as opposed to, hooking up a controller, getting it in sort of that awkward bottom area where you insert the games. I think I sort of would claw them out too. I didn't realize you had that button on the side that sort of launches it out, so it's a bit easier. And here with I think this is the 5th console I've talked about. It's the first one, still have the original one I had all the way back then. It's seen better days. Like, physically, it looks really good. I took good care of it. But the internal battery died, so it doesn't keep track of time anymore. And I don't know what's up with the disk drive in it. I've never really been able to find anyone else online who has a similar issue, although I don't know if I ever really did a big deep dive on it. But the disk drive won't read like anything unless the GameCube's just already been powered on for a while. And it started off, a couple minutes, and it just kept getting worse to now I need to have it running for like 15-20 minutes just to read a game, especially if you're not going to take it out in one sitting, which a lot of GameCube games, you're going to need multiple sessions. It's just not worth getting into anymore. Luckily, I was able to borrow a Wii to back up most of my games from the console. A couple of them, I don't know, Clean Rip just wouldn't finish them or whatever, even though, like, one of them was another SSX game. I forget if it was 3 or Tricky, because I have them all on the GameCube now, that I literally, played through not that long ago, but it just wouldn't back up the whole thing, which was kind of weird, since I didn't have any issues with it before when I was playing through it. I was thinking about seeing if I could find a service or something somewhere, because I saw certain mods where you could replace the disk drive with an SD card reader and it would automatically boot into Swiss. But then I stumbled upon this flippy drive thing, which I actually wound up ordering, a solderless mod. I've never even taken apart a console before, let alone done anything like this, but looks like it could be a decent beginner project, and hey, might as well, try to make my GameCube useful again. Wow, the DS Lite and standard DS have different Wikipedia pages. That's a little surprising, but yeah, if you couldn't tell, that's our next part. Won't say to expect it sooner than later compared to the previous parts, because last time I said that, I got distracted again, and it took me 4 months to get back to it between GameCube and Xbox, but I don't know, I'm hoping to not drag this out too much longer. We'll have a DS part, and I want to have, a little bit on Wii and 360. I don't know if I'll sort of combine them, since I felt like touching on them but not going in depth was sort of a good way to conclude this series. But we'll see how it all gels together when we get there.